Well, it's 7:03 and I think it's probably okay and time to start. So I wanted to say good evening and welcome to the Lenox Library Association first Stay at Home and Read a Book Ball. I'm Maria Lynch, Development Director for the LLA and host for your evening. We know that winter in the Berkshires may be a difficult time to get out and attend a gala, and that's why the Lenox Library Association invited you to a stay at home and read a book ball. We took this idea from the Los Angeles Public Library, who's hosted a book ball for over 30 years. Their success as this non-event to support the library seems so successful and wonderful that we felt like it was a good fit for us here in the Berkshires. So we're giving it a try, and we're so happy that all of you are with us. Libraries, as you know, are vital resources. They connect community members of all ages, backgrounds, interests, and abilities to free access to millions of materials in all genres across multiple formats. They help people connect with ideas, stories, characters, and information. They provide support and actually sometimes shelter. So they inform, nurture, and they don't discriminate. Libraries change lives. So to speak on behalf of the library, we would like to share a video from Katie O'Neill, our Lenox Library Director.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie O'Neill, Director of Lenox Library. I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to the Lenox Library Association for putting together this very first Stay at Home and Read a Book Ball, and to all of you for participating in the event. It's thanks to you and the support of our community that the library is such a busy, thriving place. And I just wanted to share a little bit of information about what we've been seeing here at the library. When I had the opportunity to go back and look at usage, comparing it to between last year and pre-pandemic times, I was delighted to see that visitation has grown by 5%. Our checkout of materials has grown by 7%, and our program attendance has grown by 15%. And we're on track to have even bigger results this year. And that's thanks to you for engaging with us, attending our programs, and making use of the materials that we have available to you. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to share what I'm reading tonight. I have been enjoying a book called Brain Body Parenting by Mona Delhook, and I've been doing it on our Libby app, a service that's available to you free through CW Mars, our library network. And it's a great way to access e-audio and ebooks. And if you need help with that, please just stop by the library, give us a call, and we'd be happy to talk you through setting it up. So thank you again for being here tonight, and I hope you enjoy this evening's events.
Thank you. That was great. I'm so happy that Katie was able to share that video with us. So before I introduce our hosts, I would like to acknowledge 3 local Lenox establishments who partnered with us on the book ball. Thanks to Loeb's Food Town, Dare Bottle Shop and Provisions, and Firefly for supporting the Lenox Library Association. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Greylock Federal Credit Union, for helping to underwrite this event. I'd like to thank Jenny Ray, my co-worker, for setting this event in motion, and to all of the library admirers who have donated to this non-event night out. So we have a great lineup of hosts who have enthusiastically supported the LLA Book Ball. 7 wonderful and creative hosts who bring a wide range of interests, age, and expertise, but all share a love for the Lenox Library. I will introduce each host, and if anyone has questions for any of them, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or the top, someone said, and we will address your questions at a live session at the end of this program. So let's begin with our first host, Brendan Matthews. Brendan is a local author of 2 acclaimed novels, both published by Little, Brown and Company. He's been recognized for his writing by many prestigious awards, including an editor's choice by the New York Times Book Review. And his fiction has twice appeared in the Best American Short Stories. Brendan is a Fulbright scholar who teaches at Bard College at Simon's Rock, and he's on the Lenox Library Association Board of Trustees. So Brendan, hello and welcome to the book ball. Where are you? There you are. How are you tonight?
Thanks, Maria. No, it's great to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. So when you first learned about the book ball, what was it that excited you to become a co-host?
I love the Lenox Library, and I can go on and on and on about how important Lenox Library has been to me and to my family. And you're right, it's a kind of a lousy weather night in the Berkshires. And so the idea of staying at home and not having to get dressed up and leave the house had a certain appeal as well. So kind of put together two things that I really love, staying at home and supporting the library.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. And we really appreciate all of your support. So what books are you intending on reading tonight?
So right now I'm reading Less by Andrew Sean Greer, which is, let me see, I can tell you right now, I'm 85 pages into it and just started reading it last week. And it's a book that I bought at our very own bookstore in Lenox.
Oh, very nice.
It's so it was a book that won the Pulitzer Prize a few years ago, and kind of a surprise pick in many ways because it's a comic novel, and often the kind of comic novels don't get the attention they deserve. Some of the big prizes tend to go for the more serious kind of heavy novels, but this one touches on mortality and aging and ambition, and is particularly sharp on the life of the writer, the kind of mid-career writer, which I know a little bit about myself. But it's also just this great comic romp about Arthur Less, who's a novelist about 3 books into his career and maybe not as famous as he hoped he would be. And in order to avoid a really sticky social situation, the marriage of an ex-boyfriend, he accepts every offer he's given for writing conferences and half-baked prize ceremonies all around the world. And this around the world trip keeps him from having to go to this wedding that he's deathly afraid of attending. So like I said, I'm about 85 pages in and just absolutely in love with this book. So really having a great time.
Well, that's great. Sounds like a good book. It sounds wonderful. So have you paired your evening's reading with anything particular this evening? Any food or drink? Or
well, like I said, the book is sort of around the world in 80 days. And the part that I'm in right now, he's just arrived in Italy. So I have a nice Italian red.
Oh, nice. Cheers.
Purchased at Dare Bottle Shop. So I'm trying to keep things local.
Very great. Oh, that's great.
That's if I were a few pages farther in, he's in Germany, so I'd have to make some different choices. But for now, at least, I get to enjoy a nice Italian red.
Well, that's great. Well, we appreciate it. And is there any, and just one more question, is there any books that you would recommend for people to pick up, maybe perhaps not tonight, but in the near future?
I'm going to recommend a book that you can pre-order. So it's not out yet, but it's coming out. Let me check the date here. I believe it is May the 7th. No, May the 2nd. And you can pre-order this at our very own bookstore in Lenox as well. So it's The Half Moon, and it's the next book by Mary Beth Keane. Mary Beth Keane is a very good friend of mine, a grad school classmate who I've been in close touch with in the years since then. Her last book, which was called Ask Again, Yes, was a huge bestseller. It was a Tonight Show book club pick, and this is the follow-up to that. It's set in the same town. It's set during the course of a single week in the marriage of a couple that seems like it's about kind of pulling apart. It's, as all her work is, it's beautiful and funny and deep. She just understands relationships really well. So this is a book that comes out in May. This is an advanced copy that I have here. You can pre-order it at the bookstore, and if you pre-order it, you actually get a signed book plate and a coaster and a matchbook, because most of the book is set in a bar. So her publisher has made some bar merch available. So for anybody out there who wants to get on the next big thing, this is it right here. So talk to Matt about it.
I have pre-ordered the merch.
Excellent.
So it should be arriving soon.
The merch is coming. So this is it. It's The Half Moon by Mary Beth Keane.
Oh, well, that's a great recommendation. You heard it here first, folks, the inside scoop on that. So that's exciting. So thank you, Brendan. Really, really appreciate you supporting the library and being a host this evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening and that nice red wine.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. I would like to introduce Rebecca Shear and Eric Shimalonis, host and composer of WBUR's podcast Circle Round. Rebecca has brought thousands of stories to life as a public radio reporter and host. She has hosted several weekly news programs along with podcasts for the Folger Shakespeare Library and Slate Magazine, among other things. She is also the author of the Circle Round picture book series. Eric is a composer, musician, and audio producer who has worked, whose work has been heard on stage, screen, and over the airways. Eric has won a Helen Hayes Award and has been nominated for several other distinguished design awards. In the film Winter Passing, Eric performed a duet with Will Ferrell. Well, that's fun. So hello, Eric and Rebecca. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We're so excited to have you. How are you both?
We are doing very, very well. Thanks for having us.
Very happy to be with you.
Yes, and we see you have a third person with you. And who's joining us?
This is the youngest library lover in the family, our son, Igor.
Hi, Igor. It's nice to have you here with us.
I'm hitting so hard.
So when we were planning the book ball, you provided me with a great quote about what libraries meant to you. And in that quote, you said, "There's no place in the world that sparks curiosity, inspires imagination, and nurtures knowledge the way public libraries do. And our podcast and our family would be bereft without them." I mean, this is a wonderful quote to hear, but can you tell me more about what the role the library plays for your family and for your podcast?
Well, on our podcast, we adapt folk tales from all around the world as audio plays for listeners around the world. And when our fans ask us, where do you find your stories? We always say a magical, mystical place known as the library. We have taken out hundreds, if not thousands, of folktale collections, folktale picture books, oral histories where elders in villages have told folktales. We're just constantly getting books to help, provide entertainment for children around the world. But beyond that, we're just a big reading family, constantly reading books, especially to this one here. So the library has been an invaluable resource.
Well, that's really great to hear. I'm so excited that the library plays such a big role in your family. So will you want to share with us some of your favorite books? Do you have any favorites that you want to share?
Certainly, we have some family favorites here. Igor's holding up The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton,
Ooh.
who was a Massachusetts writer. Jules Pfeiffer did the illustrations for this particular edition. This was one of my favorite books growing up as a child, and what a treat to introduce this book to my family as a grown-up.
And what can I just ask you, what genre is that? Is that a YA book or young literature?
I think whether you're 6 or 106, you would love this book. But yes, It's written at like a YA level.
Okay.
Fantastic picture book or chapter book about a boy who goes on all sorts of adventures and lots of great puns. We're a big punning family. Igor always says we make too many mom jokes and dad jokes, but great puns.
Many dad jokes, not
Too many. I love it. It's a good thing.
It's a compliment for me.
Yes.
Not quite apropos to this week's weather, but last week's weather in the Berkshires. The Snowy Day. Just what a charming book. The collage pictures, the story of the young boy. Definitely a family favorite. Daniel Pinkwater. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but
No, tell us.
wacky, zany, character-filled books. This one's called Guys from Space.
Now he cannot read. Well, you cannot read this at all. It's his job to read them.
And Igor loves the voices that Eric uses for the space guys. And then the last book, we lost the cover to this one, but this one is a book by Kobe Yamada. It's called What Do You Do with an Idea? And as someone who creates, I'm constantly writing. Eric's always making music and Igor's always making all sorts of things, including finger knitting at the moment.
Including, oh God, where did that stuff go?
And Legos. This book is all about how you may have an idea and you may think it's a terrible idea at first, but keep working at it. Eventually it will be worth sharing with the world. Don't get down on yourself.
Well, and I think that's true of so many things. So that sounds like a really wonderful book. And again, can apply to, 2 to 200, just like your other book or what, it's great. You've picked these books that have these vast and a wide appeal. So I think that's really wonderful. There's wonderful. So is there anything else you want to share with us this evening before we move to our next host?
There's a quote that I love saying about the library that's not mine, but Borges, Jorge Luis Borges once said, "I've always imagined that paradise will be a kind of a library." And I just frankly could not agree with him more. Paradise right there in the library.
Paradise. That's great. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We really enjoyed having you here, and keep those dad jokes coming. I mean, that's what it's all about.
No way.
No way. All right. Well, thank you. And be sure, if you haven't tuned into Circle Around, be sure to tune into their podcast, Circle Around on WBUR, whenever you have the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, one of our star volunteers at the Lenox Library, Sarah Jarvie. She's a pediatric development specialist and co-leader of the library's very popular program, Baby Circle. Sarah Jarvie is a mother of 2 young boys who both attend Morris Elementary School here in Lenox. Hi. With her specialized degrees, Sarah brings an expertise to Baby Circle program that helps new parents learn about their infant's development. When Sarah is not at the library, she can be found walking her 2 rescue dogs, crafting, listening to a book, or sitting by a campfire with her family. So Sarah and family, welcome to the book ball this evening. We're thrilled you're to co-host. Hi. So wait, Sarah, before I see you back there, before we talk about the book ball, tell me about your 2 rescue dogs.
So our 2 rescues, we have Fry and we have Huckleberry. They are rescues from Tennessee. They came to us about, Huckleberry was 2020 and Fry was 2021.
And what kind of dogs are they?
Huckleberry, we believe, is a Black Lab mix, and Fry, we believe, is a Beagle Lab mix.
Oh, so lots of fun energy in that household.
High energy. 2 boys,
High
2
energy.
rescues. High energy is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So who are you reading with tonight, and where are you? I see.
I'm at my best friend's house up in Lanesboro with her 2 kids who I consider like my own. So we have 4 boys here excited to read tonight. 4 dogs and 4 boys.
Oh, that's
so Connor's gonna go. Connor's going to go first and show him the book. Show everybody the books he's reading.
Blue hat, green hat, the ski lesson, and all the places that you can be.
By Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
So All the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss is one of our favorite books that I've always read to my children. This book by the amazing Sandra Boynton, Red Hat, Green Hat, which Jenny, our youth librarian, introduced Connor to, and it's obsession now. And then for early readers, we have a Scooby-Doo series, and this one's called The Ski Lesson, where Scooby learns to ski.
This one that's called Scooby Bakes the Cake, and I also bring that one, but I can't find it. So I didn't.
You can't find it. You can't. Well, it sounds like you have a really good lineup of books tonight. So, hey, any special treats being served along with all this fun reading that you're going to be doing?
Well, I actually have 3 other kids who would like to share their books, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right, so Matthew, my other son, is reading Magic Tree House. We love this series. And he's reading Mummies in the Morning.
Oh, I have. And we only have book 30, but I like this one more.
David, my son's best friend, is reading, you tell him, what is it called?
The Flying Beaver Brothers.
The Flying Beaver Brothers and the Mudsling Moles by Maxwell Ian. And then Jack, his brother, is reading Pete the Cat and the Magic Sunglasses. So we have a nice range of kid books happening tonight in this house.
I'm going to start.
You sure do. You sure do. You've got a lot of great picks there. Well, what a fun group. And it's really great to have you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And thank you. And have fun reading all those great books.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So from another part of town, and perhaps a bit quieter than the Jarvie household, please join me in welcoming book enthusiast and former Lenox Library Association trustee, Susan Dana. In March of 1994, Susan and her husband, Ned, relocated to Lenox and have been library patrons and volunteers ever since. Thank you, Susan, for your longtime support of the library and for being a host of this evening's book ball. So Susan, when asked about the library, you responded with the quote, "What a treasure the Lenox Library is, both as an historic building and as a repository of knowledge. So, Susan, do you have any special stories or memories about the Lenox Library that you can share with us tonight? Oh, asked to unmute. Wait a minute, Susan, hold on, you're muted. Unmute. Let's see, how do we unmute you?
How about like,
Oh, try that again. Try that again, sorry.
mute?
There we go.
Ah,
Now we
okay.
can hear you. Okay.
Great, great. Well, it's not nearly as exciting here, as you said, as it is at other people's houses. One interesting thing is that one of my college roommates was Jack Ezra Keats' editor for The Snowy Day, and
wow.
for several of his other books as well. So what a coincidence for tonight. But when we first moved to Lenox, our children, of course, were long gone at that point. So we've not had the pleasure of enjoying the youth programs. But the minute the moving truck left our driveway, we were at the library getting our library cards and signing up to volunteer. And we've been doing that ever since, including some years that we remember semi-finally when we were sorting books in the library basement before the renovations took place. And it was unpleasant, to put it politely, in the library basement during those days. But it was helpful to sort the books at that point. And libraries have always been important in our families. My mother helped start a library in the small community that we lived in. And Ned and I both spent summers at a lake where there was a library that was in a small town. Pennsylvania wasn't very good at supporting public libraries in small towns in those days. And we remember the auction, which was held every summer, that raised all kinds of money. And both of us participated in that from the time we were small children. So libraries have always played an important part. And I just think the Lenox Library is wonderful. So I'm delighted that you're having this great party tonight and with so many interesting people attending.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad to hear that libraries was in your blood. That's what we love. So Susan, I really adored the picture of you holding that pile of books. And I was just wondering, are you going to tackle reading those tonight, or just tell me about some of those books that you, and
well, some of them I have finished. I just sort of lifted the pile off my night table. I'm going to try, you have to read the Icelandic sagas in small doses. So I think I may give that a couple of pages. But in the meantime, I've been working on The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Colbert. Notice, oh, there we go, the bookstore mark, and The Chancellor by Katie Martins, who was here last summer as one of the speakers at the Mounts Summer Book Series. And in the meantime, a number of people have been reading and recommending, and I'm now reading a hilarious book called Lessons in Chemistry, which is a current bestseller on the New York Times list. And I don't usually read bestsellers, but this one by Bonnie Garbus, I think her name is a riot. And it is so well written and it's so unusual. It's really great. I'm enjoying it very much. I'm reading it on my Kindle, but it's a terrific book, and it's much more suitable to a rainy night than some of the other things, except maybe the Icelandic sagas. Maybe they're good for rainy nights.
yeah.
But that's what I'm up to at this point.
Well, that's a good pile of books. And I just want to add on to the Bonnie Garmis book, The Lessons in Chemistry. That was, she was one of our guests at the Library Speakers Consortium. And so if you have read it or haven't read it, either way, if you go to the Lenox Library Association, Lenox Library website, we have a recording of a special talk that she gave, and you can listen to her presenting, and then also listen to some of the questions and answers. And it's recorded, so you have access to it as a Lenox Library Lenox Library card holder. So
fabulous.
Yeah, it's a really nice resource. That's a great
I
program
bet.
that we just brought to the library. So, well, that's great. So are you going to, is anything else come to hand, or anything eating or drinking tonight to go with your books?
Well, typically we have espresso and a good chunk of dark chocolate every night. So that will be our special treat at this point.
Well,
no special refreshments.
Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
sounds fabulous. Susan, thank
Yep.
you so much for co-hosting
You're
our first
welcome.
Stay at Home Ball. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for all of your years of support as a volunteer and as a former board member. We appreciate
We've
it.
enjoyed it very much.
Great. Thank you. Enjoy your
Thanks,
books.
Maria.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. So now we move to our youngest host, Eliza Cass. So Eliza is a 10-year-old resident who lives with her younger brother, her sister, and a cat. And Eliza loves to read. She goes to the library almost every week, and she told me she's sad when it's closed. In fact, she doesn't know what she would do without a library. Well, actually, she does. She told us without a library, she would have to go buy all her books that she wanted to read. So as you can see from this slide here, Eliza has several favorite books that have earned her the reputation as a voracious reader. So welcome, Eliza. I too am very happy that the library exists, and I'm so happy that you're such a fan. Thank you for hosting the book ball tonight. We're so pleased to have you not only as a voracious reader, but as a Lenox student. So Eliza, tell us, why do you love to read?
That's a good question. I like to read because, well, it's fun and it's a good way to pass the time. And I just like to read.
Well, that's good. Books take you to another world, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great thing about books. That's wonderful. So tell me what you love about the library.
I really like how I can walk straight to the library from my house. It's like one of the places where I can walk alone with my sister. And I like how I can just sit there and read. And I get good recommendations from the librarians.
Well, that's good to hear. And I know they love having you because youth librarian Jenny Malloy was the one that told me how much you love the library. And that's why we invited you to be a co-host tonight. And I'm so thrilled that you agreed to that. So this is wonderful. So tell me, Eliza, what are you currently reading?
Right now I'm reading Charlie Thorne and the Curse of Cleopatra. It's book 3 in the series. I actually own book 1, and I'm really enjoying the series. I'm almost done with it, actually.
That looks like a big book. How many pages is that book?
It's 386.
Whoa.
No, 387 pages.
Wow, good for you. And that's book 3 of the series.
Yep.
Wow. And I know how big those Harry Potter books are, and you've read those. So
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with your reading ability. That's amazing. So, Eliza, I hear that your sister Rosalie is also a big reader and a library fan, and your mom, Kristen, are with you tonight. So how will the 3 of you spend the rest of your book ball night?
Well, our dad is currently reading us the first book in the Lord of the Rings series, The Fellowship of the Ring, and he's gonna read it to Rosalie and I tonight, and then I'm gonna read some of this.
Well, good for you. That sounds like a terrific night. I'm so happy. Thank you to you and your sister and your mom and your dad and your cat and your brother. And we hope you all have a really fun time reading together tonight at the book ball, and keep up that great work. It's wonderful to have such a young fan of reading and of the library. Thank you, Eliza.
You're welcome.
So our penultimate hosts is Team Moriarty. It's a family of 4, Lenox family of 4 avid readers. So Team Moriarty moved to Lenox from Fox Island, Washington, to return to Graham, who's dad's roots, where he was an avid baseball player and a fall festival of Shakespeare participant. Mom, who's Kristen, began training at Shakespeare and Company Center for Actor Training in 2011. And since then, I've been working full-time with the theater company as in development, as an actor, and as a faculty member. And then the children, Honora, who's 9, and Leah Den, who's 7, attend Morris Elementary and are involved in chorus as well as ballet and Irish dance. So welcome, Team Moriarty. Get the whole family. This is exciting. So tell me, Team Moriarty, it's great to have you. Tell me why you all agreed to host the book ball tonight.
Well, from one development person to another, I was excited to help the library with fundraising and to help the library in particular, because libraries have always been really important to our family. Honora was in the hospital for a long time when she was born. And so one of the few things that we could do was read from birth on. And so books have always been a really important part of our family. And similar to Eliza, we would spend a whole lot of more money on books if there wasn't the library. And though we've only lived here as a family for 4 years, the library has also been an important physical location for our family. Leah had her preschool graduation from Lenox Preschool there in the library on those steps. Eliza's saying same. And the library, the Lenox Library is just, I think, a staple building and institution and organization for our community. So we're happy to support the library tonight.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. So tell me, what do you all intend to read tonight?
Well, I'm reading the Henry VI Part 2 chapter out of Shakespeare After All, which is a book by Marjorie Garber, and Shakespeare and Company is doing Henry VI Part 2. So I'm doing a little bit of research before the season gets started. Leah, what are you reading right now?
I'm reading Cutie Corns. They're like this puppy that has a horn, and they go on adventures together.
You like reading a lot of the books in that series, right? Yeah. How about you, Honora?
I'm reading Caroline. She's one of the American Girls. So the American Girls are just like all these different girls, and they have different hardships, and they're from different times.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So,
and Graham's got.
Yep. What's Graham? What are you reading? I see you back there.
I'm going to jump into an old book that I haven't ever actually gone around reading, but it's called Winky. It's about a teddy bear who wills himself to life, but finds himself in a world that is now full of terror and comically navigates it, I suppose, is the best way to say it.
And can you repeat the title of that book? I didn't hear that.
Winky.
Winky. Okay. Winky. Well, that sounds like a very diverse list of books that the Moriarty team is reading this evening. So now you have a little experience in Shakespeare and Company and acting, and I'm just wondering if anyone in the house is either dressing a character, or if you could be a character in the book, who would that be?
Well, I'm dressing like I'm on vacation, but I'm not, because I do most of my reading when I'm on vacation. So I'm going to pretend I'm on vacation tonight. Who would you be if you could be a character from a book?
I would probably be Sparkle. She's a cutie corn.
Yeah. Why would you want to be her?
She is I think the best magic. I forgot what it was, but I know that I like it.
I'd like to have some magic too.
Yeah.
If you could be a character?
I'd probably be Felicity. She's one of the American Girls. I'd be her because horses are my favorite animal, and she really loves horses too.
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds like a good fit. That's great. Graham, any characters you want to be?
I cannot even think of one.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm so glad that you all joined us tonight. You have really great books lined up to stay home and read. I see you have a fire in the background, so it sounds like a great night. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and hosting our first Stay at Home and Book Ball. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your reading.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Before we get to your questions for our host, if anybody has any, we want to welcome our very own town celebrity, the owner of the bookstore and Get Lit Wine Bar, Matt Tenenbaum. So Matt is a longtime proprietor of the bookstore and Getlit Wine Bar here in Lenox. He's also the subject of a 2022 documentary, Hello Bookstore, produced and directed by Adam Zaks. And he's authored one book, a memoir titled My Years at the Gotham Book Mart. And he's a regular radio guest on WAMC's Book Pick segment of the Roundtable. So Matt is joining us from South Carolina. As you may notice, he's in a t-shirt, unlike the rest of us. So Matt from South Carolina, how are you? And welcome.
Hi, Maria. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I didn't want to miss this. I knew as soon as you told me the date, I knew we were going to be away. Carol and I were going to be away, but I definitely had to, I wanted to redeem myself from the last gala at the Lenox Library. I don't know if you were there, Maria, but we had.
I wasn't.
We had dancing in the reading room, and my dancing partner slipped and broke her foot. I made her get up and keep dancing. We didn't think it was broken, but there's no dancing at the gala tonight. And I think that's a good idea. Unless people listen, if you want to dance back home, you know, just don't get me involved because I could break your foot easily.
Right, right. So just beware when you go to the bookstore and you visit Matt. If he pulls you up for a dance, just beware. Just fair warning. So, well, I'm sure the weather is nice down there, and we miss you having you here. But we're so glad that you were able to join us from there. So, Matt, I mean, a bookstore. You know, a bookstore. How do you possibly recommend a book or books? And if so, what would you recommend this evening?
Well, the book that I'm recommending. That we're all of us who work at the store are recommending is a book called Cat Brushing, and it's a collection of short stories by a woman named Jane Campbell. I don't have my copy here because I keep showing my copies to people and they keep taking them away from me, which is fine. Jane Campbell has just turned 80, and this is her first collection of stories, and these are stories about women in their 70s and 80s. And they are so well written, so insightful. I can't get over. I go back to these stories. I read them. You know, it took me maybe a little less than a week to read all, maybe 8 or 9 stories. But I keep going back to them. I keep going back to them.
Where is she from? Is she a local author? Or is she from?
She's not local. She's British. She grew up in South Africa or Zambia. She spends her time. She's been a therapist, an analyst for 40 years. She spends her time between Bermuda and Oxford, England.
And can you repeat the title of the book again, please?
Cat Brushing. Cat Brushing is one of the stories. It's about a woman who goes to spend time with her son and daughter-in-law and spends time brushing the cat. And I'm not going to say anything more.
Okay, so I guess we need to read it. Yeah, we need to read it. So Matt, if you could pair a book with a food or drink, what book would you pair, or what comes to mind with food and books, and what would it look like for you?
I've been thinking about this one. I've been thinking about it the whole time here, and although I have to confess I've never read Pat Conroy, I've dipped into his works. Here we are in the Low Country in South Carolina. This is Pat Conroy territory. So we would be pairing Prince of Tides or the Great Santini with shrimp and grits.
Sounds like a perfect pairing.
Good.
It's a great pairing. A little spice. You want a little spice to it, and if you if you wake up the next morning, you still got grits in your teeth, you're doing fine.
There you go. Sounds like makings of a good storyline for a book as well. So that whole scenario sounds really good. Sounds really good. Well, Matt, is there anything else you'd like to share with us this evening before we move?
I want to tell you that the library has. When I bought the bookstore back in the day, the library was just the downstairs, and the upstairs were office rooms. And I bought the bookstore in the library. I signed my papers in the second floor of the library, and the library has always been that important to me. But when I was a kid, growing up in Mount Vernon, New York, we had a Carnegie Library, and we all had to go. We loved going to the library. And in junior high school, I forget what grade it was, we got our adult library cards. And then after everybody got their cards and signed their names with their best handwriting, and we were given a tour of the reference room and shown how to use the card catalog and et cetera, we all went back to the bus to go back to school, and they counted heads, and one kid was missing, and that was me. Because I had snuck down the back stairs that nobody else knew about to get back to the kids' room, where I sat reading the Walter R. Brooks series, Freddie the Pig. And I don't know if that would make me a bookseller today, but that's how it turned out. Freddie the Pig books, kids, there are only a couple of them available. The library might have more of them. They're out of print now, most of them. They're terrific books. They were written, a series of children's books written from the 20s through the 50s that I grew up on. I didn't grow up in the 20s. I grew up in the 50s.
Well, that would be fun to see if the library has them. I'll have to check with Jenny, our youth librarian, and if not, maybe we can do a special, bring them back or something. That would be fun. But well, that's a great story, and that shows your true love of books, but also of the library.
And the library. And
the library. So we appreciate that, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to your return to Lenox. Bring your coat. So, well, I wanted to thank all of our hosts. Before we move into our Q&A, I'd like to remind you that your donations support the library materials and programs such as Baby Circle, the Library Speaker Consortium, the local history presentations, Tangle Creek concert talks, and much, much more. So remember, your support changes lives across our community, and we accept donations anytime. So it's never too late. So let's now turn to our audience and take questions if anyone has any for our hosts. Remember to use the Q&A section down at the bottom of your screen, because that's where we will monitor if there are any questions at this time. So let's give it a moment to see if anybody has any questions. Our youth librarian, Jenny Malloy, is on the call, and she said it's nice to see everyone. So that we appreciate you supporting us and being here, Jenny. Thank you. Any questions from our attendees? I mean, I'll throw a question out there while we're waiting. Anybody want to share with us the first book that ever made you cry?
Oh,
Graham and I both have the same answer. It's Where the Red Fern Grows.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah. So I have a question here for Eliza. Eliza, if books did not exist, what would you do?
I don't know.
Well, that's a fair answer to that question. Maybe you'd have to write all the books in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have
On time to a lot more places if books didn't exist in our household.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a question for, let's see, actually, it's sort of a two-part question for Brendan. Brendan, someone's looking for another book. I know you recommended one, but if you have another book recommendation, and then what book would you pair with a beer?
What book wouldn't I pair with a beer? Might be the question. All depends on the weather, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what time of year it is. I guess for other book recommendations, sometimes what I like to do is often I'll go to the second floor of the library, the part overlooking the reading room, and just go through the shelves and look for something that jumps out at me. A lot of the books I've found have been by browsing in those spots. I go in looking for one thing and I come out with 3 or 4 others. But 2 that I've read that I really liked. One, if you're in the mood for dark, violent, wailing epic from the 19th century that's not Moby Dick. Maybe it's like Moby Dick, if Moby Dick didn't have a sense of humor, would be The North Water by Ian McGuire, which is a fantastic book, but a tough read. I guess it's good for a dark winter's night. If you're, and I was thinking too, if you're anybody who's a fan of The Last of Us, you know, the new kind of HBO zombie epic that's, or a zombie-ish epic that's taken hold. There's a great book by Ling Ma. She's a writer who lives in Chicago right now called Severance. And it's about, I feel like it's safe to go back to this book now. It came out shortly before the pandemic, and it's about a pandemic and its effect on people. And it just sort of, it's a great book about work and what it's like to be at work in a job where you're caught up in a routine. And the pandemic kind of forces people like to stick with certain routines that they've gotten into. So it's a great book. Again, like not a funny read. That's why I suggested less at the beginning, because I find that a lot of the stuff I read tends to be a little on the dark side, and less I'm really enjoying because it's has such a lighter touch for some of these darker subjects. But The North Water by Ian McGuire and Severance by Ling Ma are both books I've really enjoyed in the last few years.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Rebecca, we have a question for you. Jack Ketchen wants to know, what is your favorite book of all times?
Wow, my favorite book of all time. Golly, that answer would probably depend on the day, but I'm going to go back and give another plug. The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. This is a great book for young people to read alone, or with a grown-up, or for a grown-up to read alone. It's just a fantastic adventure story, again, full of so many good puns. Fun to say, Phantom Tollbooth.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. We have a question here for Matt. Matt, what are your favorite books under 300 pages? And then see, that's the question for you. And then everyone, all the other hosts and hostess, think about, what are your favorite mysteries? So we'll let Matt answer first, under 300 pages, and then when everyone can chime in on their favorite mysteries.
Matt is muted.
Matt, I think you're muted.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Okay, here we are.
Under 300 pages. Well, the first author who comes to mind is Patrick Modiano, the French novelist who first came to my attention, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago when he won the Nobel Prize. And he writes these 110-page novels, almost novellas. And so I love them. They are very spacey writing. He's meditating as the character. One of the books is he works for a detective agency, and he has amnesia, and he's trying to find out who he is. And he does this very well. And like in a good detective book, sometimes he follows the wrong lead. So that's one, Patrick Modiano. Another under 300 pages. Well, Brendan, you know, your book is, for me, it was under 300 pages. I read it so quickly. The World of Tomorrow. I guess that doesn't count. What else have I got? A book, a local book, the Midwinter Day by Bernadette Mayer, book of poetry about Lenox, a full-length poem about Lenox, Massachusetts on Midwinter Day, 1978. He walked around town, and if you don't know this book, you want to read this book. And you know, she spent a lot of time. The library is mentioned in this book more than the bookstore. Bernadette and her family went to the library every day. They only came to the bookstore every once in a while. What else have I got? I've got well, the Book of Ebenezer LePage is a novel, one of my favorites, and it's probably under 300 pages, by G.B. Edwards, a novel about a man who spent a tomato grower on Guernsey Island. Came out 40 years ago, and it was out of print for once or twice, but other publishers have kept bringing it back, and it's available now. So those are mine.
Great, thank you. Has any of our other hosts come up with their favorite mysteries to share tonight? Oh, Eliza.
Yours, I believe.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I really like the mixed up files of Miss Basil and Frank Weiler.
Very
Great.
good. Any other contributions
Sure.
about Miss?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a great fan of Dorothy Sayers and her extremely mannered mysteries starring Lord Peter Wimsey. But if you force me to move up further into the 20th century, I love one of the series by, oh dear, I'm blanking, Alexander McCall Smith. Not his detective agency stories, but he's written a series about academics, particularly an outrageously stuffy and misguided linguist named Herr Dr. Professor somebody or other, whose most famous work is Irregular Portuguese Verbs. And that's the title of the book. And it's not really a mystery, except it's a mystery how this man survives. He's so inept at everything he does. But it's a wonderful story, especially for people in academia.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. So I know we have an author among us, Brendan. Has anyone else here either written a book or dreams of writing a book? And if so, what does that look like for you?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, Matt wrote a book. He wrote a memoir. Sorry, Matt. But is there anything else? Sarah, are you saying something? No. Okay.
We have a series of books.
Rebecca has all those books.
Right. She's got the
baseball
series.
game, right?
Oh, look at Eric. Look at this.
Oh, good.
So we've taken our podcast and we've partnered with Story Publishing up in North Adams in the Mass Mocha Complex to turn 4 of our episodes into picture books.
Oh, wow.
Tale of the Unwelcome Guest, The Lion's Whisker. Which one is that, Igor? No, Taste of Honey. Well, anyway, we have 4 books and they are illustrated by artists from all over the world. Written by me, adapted from our WBUR children's storytelling podcast. And I believe that at least some of them are available at the bookstore.
I have them all.
Oh, we need to make sure they get to the library too, so that people who can't afford to go buy books, they can also come to the library and use them there as well. So
I'll say
that's
I dream about writing the next one. That's a lot.
that's right. Right.
I mean, a part of the reasons, a lot of the reasons I love the library was a space that I was able to go and write. You know, we have 4 kids and getting away sometimes and just trying to find some mental space can be hard. And the library was always a real refuge to go to. And frequently I would go with my kids and they would be downstairs in the kids section while I was upstairs in the dome room trying to get a little writing done. So it was a great space for that. And also I mentioned, I was talking to my wife earlier about getting ready for this. And she said, be sure to mention at the Lenox Library that she owes her sanity to the library in many ways. Because when we first moved here 15 years ago, we had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And the programming at the library was where we met our friends and where we took our kids and where they fell in love with books. So the library has always been a really important and special place for us. And it's so great to hear from so many people tonight who are different ages. And it's reminding me of just what an important space it's been and continues to be for our kids from age 1 up now through their late teens. So.
Well, that's great. Thank you. That's wonderful to hear how it's impacted your family and your kids and that they've all grown up with it. I want to just circle back to Rebecca and let you know that your books are at the library. Jenny, our youth librarian, just shot me a message and said they're at the library too. So we do have them there as well.
That's like a childhood dream come true for a book that I wrote to be available at the library.
Oh. Well, that's great. Congratulations. That's what we all want, is our dreams to come true. So any other questions? I see a comment. We have someone who said another book recommendation would be Barker's Wish by Dan Stern. And I believe that Dan is a local Lenox resident as well. And it's a children's book. So that's, I believe, available at the library as well. So that's wonderful to have that is here as well. So if there's any other questions, if there's no other questions, I wanted to say thank you all for joining us this evening. We're so happy to have our fabulous hosts for our first Lenox Library Association Book Ball. And this marks the close of the stay at home and read a book ball. So thank you for participating. Have a ball reading tonight, and let the pages transport you to another world. Good night.